Okay, now that you've watched the Connect video and you learned, you got a little introduction into our theme this week, or our story this week called The Flood and Rainbow, I am going to help set up the different texts that you're going to read so that you can better understand them, because the Bible was written in a time period long ago, and sometimes we have a hard time understanding these texts. So I just want to give you a little bit of a background and help you set yourself up so that you can understand these texts by yourself or with your family. So this week we're learning about the flood. Do you remember learning about this story? Maybe in faith formation, or maybe you've read it in your children's Bible? Well, there's a man named Noah, and he was given a special task to build an ark and gather animals and his family to all live on this ark when it started raining and the flood started happening. But this story is not just about the flood. It's about more than Noah and the animals and the big boat. The flood is about God's willingness to let the world remain broken. So the flood is about God's promise to recreate and restore both us and all of creation. The flood washes away the way we've always done things and leaves this rich soil for new growth. The floods destroy the earth, but God would not destroy all of creation. God selected Noah and his family to survive this destruction and to take on the responsibility of beginning the world anew. So Noah and his family built this ark, and they carried all the animals through the storm and the destruction. And when the flood was finished and God saw what was left, God knew that God could never, ever do this again. God placed a rainbow in the sky as a reminder of God's covenant that the world would never again be destroyed. So, we will continue to make mistakes, right? And do awful things in the course of our lives, and God knows that. God is very aware of that. However, God's commitment, because of God's covenant and God's promise of the rainbow, God tells us that God will never destroy the earth again. But God will continue to restore us and give us hope even when we continue sinning. That is a very powerful message. So I encourage you now to stop this video and to go read the text from Genesis. And then once you're done with the text of Genesis, you can answer the question that's underneath it or the questions that are underneath it, and then you can resume this video again. Okay, now that we're back together after you read Genesis, the Genesis text, think about a couple important things you want to remember from that story, and maybe jot them down on your rainbow here on the third green page. Maybe you want to write the characters that were involved, like Noah and the animals and the big ark, and the word covenant and what covenant means. Remember, it means a promise from God. And maybe we want to write something about how God will never flood the earth again, and that God will continue to remind us with the rainbow of God's covenant and promise. So the next text that we have is on, let's see, I have to think, Jonah. His name is Jonah. So Jonah. In this text from Jonah, we hear about a town called Nineveh. It was a really bad town with bad people, and there were enemies of Israel and God, and Jonah didn't want Nineveh to change and worship God, and he didn't want to help Nineveh. He didn't want God to give mercy and grace and love to this town. He just wanted this town to be destroyed because he thought they were so bad. So Jonah ran away from God's request to help change these people because Jonah wanted God to punish the people of Nineveh. After some time in tough situations, like being stuck in a whale, Jonah finally went to Nineveh to help change the hearts of these people. So even though God was upset with these people, God showed mercy and decided to not let them perish. And because of that, they became changed people. I want you to pay very close attention as you read this text to verse 10. This is a powerful reminder of God's promise to us that God will also always be merciful and forgiving and loving. So once you read the Jonah text, you can answer the questions, and then you can check back in with this video. All right, so the last text I would like you to explore today is from the New Testament. So we are mainly focusing on the Old Testament this year. However, there's a lot of New Testament stories that help us understand Old Testament stories really well. So in the New Testament, during the time of Jesus, Jesus is traveling around and talking to different people, and he has a bunch of followers that are following him, and he runs into this woman, this Canaanite woman, and he's really not supposed to talk to this woman because they are of different groups. However, this woman keeps coming to Jesus because she knows there's something special about Jesus. So God's mercy functions in our world today continuously, and this story from the New Testament also shows how God's mercy continues throughout the New Testament. So originally, Jesus did not pay attention to this Canaanite woman because she was from a different group. And then something happened. Something changed inside of Jesus, and he decided to pay attention to this woman, and he listened to her story. And because of her story, he felt compelled, and he healed her daughter. Jesus was merciful to the helpless and helped this woman. This is just another great example of God's mercy in the Bible. So, the flood, the rainbow, God's covenant, mercy, Jesus' mercy, how Jesus lived out God's mercy in the world are all great examples of things you might want to write down on your rainbow so you can remember this story in the future. All right, that's all that I have for you today, and I hope that you learned something new and you discovered something about yourself, and that you are able to take one thing that you thought about today into your life as you continue on your week. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to connect with you soon. Bye, everyone.